In the previous instalment, I told you of many cases of people being prosecuted for owning or using a simple radio scanner. The law around this topic is clear, and always has been, and I'll provide links to previous detailed videos in the description below. In this second instalment of the series, I've spent weeks trawling through the archives to bring you some really interesting stories of criminal proceedings brought against scanner users. Most of these involve police radio and cordless and mobile phones, all of which are now digital, and so as the years go by, the number of cases dwindles, but in the 1980s and 1990s, a lot of people were taken to court for this seemingly innocent action. Some of these cases involve other crimes or other reasons for the police to be present, and the radio scanner portion of the story is somewhat secondary, but others recount instances where people have been lifted in the street for merely possessing a radio scanner. There's quite a lot, so this'll form a continued series throughout the month. First up is a story of a Hartlepool man who was arrested by police in late 1992 after he listened in to their conversations on his radio scanner. Magistrates heard in January 1993 that Anthony Robert Turner, 23, admitted unlawful obtaining of information. Prosecuting solicitor Steve Robinson told magistrates that Turner was interviewed by police but could give no explanation as to why the scanner was tuned into their transmissions. He said he had loaned the radio to a friend and had just got it back. Turner failed to give the identity of the friend to police. The court heard that there was an application made by the police to forfeit the scanner. Defending solicitor Malcolm Donnelly told magistrates that radio scanners can be bought, yet people are not allowed to use them. Magistrates fined Turner £40 for the offence and £30 costs, to be paid off at £10 per fortnight. Turner was also ordered to forfeit the radio scanner. How he came to be caught in the first place is unknown. A North Shore man accused of using a radio scanner to obtain information was remanded on bail when he appeared before Blackpool magistrates in February 1993. Mark Bennett, aged 21, was set to make an appearance on March the 5th, but the outcome of this case is unknown. Magistrates in Ashington were told of the dangers of using scanning equipment for anything other than genuine amateur radio ham purposes, the report's words not mine, during a case in which a man was fined £50 for listening to police radio messages from his home in March 1993. Stuart Davies, 26, of Ashington, admitted an offence under the Wireless Telegraphy Act, and his scanner was confiscated. He told police who found a scanner in the bedroom of his home that it was tuned to police frequencies because he liked listening to the messages. His solicitor, Stephen Gibson, said, "The public might be surprised to learn that using scanning equipment to simply listen to police messages and conversations between aircraft pilots was illegal in itself. A large number of people do this just out of interest to hear what is being said, but it's now quite clear that they're committing an offence." Mr. Gibson said buying radio scanners was virtually pouring money down the drain. A spokesman for the Department of Trade and Industry's Radio Communications Agency said, "Scanners can be used legally to listen to amateur radio ham messages, but virtually nothing else. Eavesdropping or listening to radio messages which are not intended for you is an offence," he added. The teenage son of a retired Scarborough police inspector illegally listened into police radios and private telephone calls, a court heard in May 1993. Duncan Wadkin Oldham, whose father Bob retired from the force in 1991, used a scanner bought for him as a present by his mother to tap into the frequency used by police radios. The court was also told that members of the police force had been to Oldham's home to help him with tuning it in properly. Oldham, 18, of Scarborough, admitted unlawfully using telegraphy equipment with intent to obtain information he was not authorised to receive. Dawn Burkitt, prosecuting, said that Oldham had been in the car with friends when they were approached by a police officer. He saw the radio scanner, and when it was examined by experts, they found it was programmed into the channel used by Scarborough Police. Jan Brickman, mitigating, said that he was using it just as a hobby. He is the son of a retired police inspector and had an ambition to join the police force, said Mr. Brickman. He used it for his own pleasure, as a hobby, and members of the police had visited his home to help him with tuning it in. He had been warned by his father not to use it improperly. Mr. Brickman said that when Oldham was caught with the scanner in his car, it was not switched on. Oldham was given a 12-month conditional discharge, and ordered to pay £30 costs. He also had to forfeit the scanner. Illegally listening in on police messages cost an Alnwick man £210 when he appeared before the town's magistrates in June 1993. Magistrates heard how police broadcasts from Sunderland to Alnwick were being intercepted by a receiver in the home of Michael William Wilson. The realistic 10-channel scanner was programmed into a number of police frequencies and was in operation when the police visited the 43-year-old's home. Wilson claimed that the listening device had been purchased only 2 days previously, and his sole intention was to use it to check storm warnings and Coast Guard reports for fishing. He said, "Whoever had it before me must have programmed it. I didn't know how to." Police made the discovery by sheer chance when they visited Wilson's home on a different matter. 2 police officers were speaking to the defendant in his front room when they said a police message suddenly came from the device. Wilson, who had pleaded not guilty, claimed the receiver was not on until WPC Sharon Gray switched it on. "If it had been on all night, the batteries would have been flat," he added. "If I thought it was illegal, I could have hidden it." Wilson was cautioned, and officers confiscated the device. An expert later tested the radio and discovered police frequencies covering Alnwick, Morpeth, Ashington, Sunderland North, and traffic vehicle repeater radios had been programmed in. In fining Wilson, Alnwick magistrates ordered the confiscation of the scanner, which had been purchased second-hand for £60. A man appeared at Kilmarnock Sheriff Court in July 1993, charged with unlawfully listening to police broadcasts in a local pub. James Adam Lennon-Stevens of Kilmarnock was charged with using a radio scanner to eavesdrop on police transmissions. The offence was alleged to have been committed in the Belfield Tavern on February 18, 1993. Stevens pleaded not guilty, and a trial was set for August 27th. The outcome of the trial is unknown, and he was previously charged with burglary, and the scanner was likely a tool to stay ahead of the police. A radio ham said he was gutted when magistrates ordered him to forfeit his radio scanner after he admitted using it to listen to aircraft bombing ranges in August 1993. Kevin Nicholas Taylor, 29, of Spalding, was given a conditional discharge for 12 months by the Ells magistrates at Long Sutton for unlawful use of wireless telegraphy equipment. Mr. Martin Kirby Sykes, prosecuting, said police discovered the radio scanner when they were investigating another matter. They found it was programmed to pick up 4 Lincolnshire police channels, Ministry of Defence channels, and cellular telephones, and so charged him with using it unlawfully between April the 19th and May the 1st. During an interview with police, Mr. Taylor said he used the machine to listen to aircraft on the bombing range, but didn't mention it was programmed to other police and commercial channels. Defence solicitor Mr. Paul Jones told magistrates, "It's clear that if you intend to obtain information that you are not licensed to receive, you are committing an offence, and Mr. Taylor has admitted he actually listened to an aircraft bombing range. He wasn't aware it was against the law. He's very apologetic and didn't realise it was an offence. He asks you not to forfeit this item of machinery because they're very expensive. He's a keen radio ham, and if you were to forfeit this item, he would simply have to go and buy another one." A man was caught illegally listening to police messages on a radio scanner, Calderdale magistrates heard in September 1993. A policeman was searching Carl Anthony Hurst's car when he heard a message for himself from the glove compartment. He found a scanner hidden under some carpet. Hurst, 21, of Rastrick, was found guilty of using wireless telegraphy apparatus to obtain information and going equipped for theft. He denied the charges. Sentencing was adjourned, and Hurst remained in custody until appearing before magistrates the following day in connection with other charges. Brighouse PC Errol Bogle said he was in a Ford Cortina, which had been seen at the scene of an incident. He went with a colleague, saw the car being driven by Hurst and stopped it. He asked Hurst and 3 other youths to get out and search the car. I heard a radio message for my own call sign, and I was not wearing my radio. I opened the glove compartment and found a radio scanner hidden underneath, said PC Bogle. Later he searched the boot and found a hammer, a chisel, clippers, a metal bar, a monkey wrench, a torch, a screwdriver and tubing. A black balaclava was also found hidden in a panel. Hurst told the court he had borrowed the police scanner from his brother's friend because he was curious about it. He had listened to it in his flat for 10 minutes, but had found it boring. He'd put it in his car because he didn't want to leave it unattended in his flat. He denied it was switched on. Hurst said some of the tools in the car were his own, but he had bought the car hours before the incident, and some of them had been left inside. A Blyth man didn't realise he was committing an offence by having a scanner tuned into police radio frequencies. South East Northumberland law courts heard in December 1993 that Ronnie Sibbert, 21, had been carrying a 10-channel scanner when stopped by police in Blyth. He pleaded guilty to a charge of having apparatus for wireless telegraphy in December 1993. The scanner was programmed to receive messages from 5 police channels, including traffic officers in Northumberland and North Tyneside. Mr. Alan Brown for Sibbert said he did not regard himself as committing an offence. Mr. Brown said this offence was not connected with any other offence, and Sibbert understood he'd committed an offence after it had been explained to him. Sibbert was given a 12-month conditional discharge, and an order was made for the apparatus to be destroyed. 2 men arrested yards away from Accrington Police Station at midnight in the winter of 1993 were found in possession of radio scanners tuned into half a dozen police frequencies. Their appearance before Hinburn magistrates prompted prosecutor Mr. Neil Standage to say the police are worried about the increased use of these radio scanners for attempting to listen in to police messages. I'm not suggesting for one moment that these men were using scanners for criminal purposes, but there is an increase in this area of people using them for nefarious purposes. The court ordered the confiscation of the VHF scanners belonging to 31-year-old Edward James Grant and 31-year-old John MacDonald. Both admitted the unlawful use of wireless telegraphy equipment. They were each fined £100 and ordered to pay £25 in costs. Standage said Grant's £250 scanner was switched off and under the driver's seat, but MacDonald's was switched on and tuned into a number of police frequencies, as well as 2 ambulance stations. Mr. Martin Hayes, defending Grant, said that his client was guarding cars at a garage opposite the police station at the time of his arrest. He'd bought the equipment 3 years ago as a hobby. Mr. John Bennett for MacDonald said he'd bought the equipment second-hand and had not tuned it in himself. Kieran McConnell of Woodside appeared before Telford Magistrates Court in January 1994. He'd previously been convicted of the offence of listening to police frequencies. He was fined £200 for the radio offence and £150 for twice failing to surrender to bail. Mrs. Sandra Beck, prosecuting, said McConnell and another youth had run when a police car approached them in Westburn Woodside early on April the 2nd last year. She said the pair were searched and officers found the device in McConnell's pocket. The scanner was found to be tuned to designated police channels. Mr. Michael Lowe for McConnell said the device belonged to a friend and the pair fled because they failed to realise it was a police car that had stopped. A Telford man was fined £200 for having a radio scanner used to tune into police frequencies in February 1994. Robert Anthony Evans, 20, of Madeley, admitted having the device when he was searched at Woodside in April 1993. He was ordered to serve 7 days in prison to run concurrently with an ongoing sentence in lieu of the fine. Telford Magistrates Court prosecutor Miss Claire Riley said police on patrol had approached 2 men in the early hours and pursued them when they ran away. The pair were searched and one man claimed the device belonged to Evans. She said the scanner was found to be tuned into police transmissions from Mallinsgate Police Station. Miss Riley said that Evans told the officers, "I like to know what's going on with the police." Mr. Mike Sherwood Smith for Evans said he was already serving a custodial sentence. Burglars were caught after a hidden radio scanner blocked a toilet system at York's Granby Lodge Hotel in 1994. The city's Crown Court heard that the hotelier called the police who waited, realising it could monitor their messages. Colin Colquhoun, 29, and John Howe, 31, of Newcastle were arrested for burglary. Howe denied the charges. Martin Rudland, prosecuting, said the men had arranged to meet Derek Haynes and Stephen Haas at the hotel. Police pounced when the 4 men met at York. Howe was alleged to have rammed a police vehicle after the men's path was blocked. The case continued. A man arrested as part of a police crackdown on illegal radio receivers was fined £500 by Readley magistrates under the Wireless Telegraphy Act in July 1994. Darren John Wilson, 24, of Colne, also had to pay £100 in costs. He didn't appear in court to answer a charge of using wireless telegraphy equipment with intent to intercept messages without authority. The case was proved in his absence. Afterwards, a police spokesman said that continuing steps were being taken to stop people eavesdropping on messages they were not entitled to receive. This applied generally, and not only to cases where scanners and similar equipment were used by active criminals who wanted to avoid detection. The handheld radio scanner being used by the defendant was confiscated on the order of the magistrates. A Wolverhampton man who had a scanner tuned into the police radio frequency was fined £250 and put on 6 months probation in September 1994. Lee Heaven, aged 20, also had a martial arts implement in his car when police searched it, said Miss Hilary Harding, prosecuting. Heaven admitted having the scanner to obtain information, possessing the martial arts equipment as an offensive weapon, and driving without insurance. Mrs. Debbie Stars, defending, told Wolverhampton magistrates that Heaven had not used the scanner for months and that the martial arts equipment belonged to his brother. So that's part 2 in this series on people being busted for using radio scanners. As you can see, in some cases, the penalties are quite severe. It just goes to show how seriously this was taken years ago. If you are one of the people in the video and are watching this by some remote chance, then get in touch. Let me know what you think of these stories. There's plenty more coming in future instalments.